Good evening, everybody. This is Sam Shihab, and with me,
I'm Brian Burke.
And we're from the law firm of Sam Shihab and Associates. And today, we're going to talk about the October visa bulletin, the upcoming one. We are going to go through the predictions, the analysis, and have some fun with it. Today, we are not really presenting legal knowledge. We're presenting numbers and sharing them. So you guys are as good in the numbers as we are, maybe perhaps a lot better than us. But we think that we get good calculations, Brian.
Yeah, I'd be super happy if anybody takes what we do here and runs with it and says, Brian, I can run the numbers better than you. Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So with that, let's take a second break, and you guys get prepared with your questions. You guys have posted some questions early. We have them printed down here to address them. If you posted a question maybe in the last 3 or 4 minutes, we've missed it, please post it again. Otherwise, when we come back, we're going to talk about the October Visa Bulletin. Every year, the government fiscal year begins on October 1st. It ends on September 30th.
Yeah.
Right? And with that, a new set of green card availability rolls out and are published in the Visa Bulletin. We've had strange years with the pandemic, numbers flowing from the family-based cases into the employment-based cases because of the consulate being closed and not able to process cases. And this year will be no different, although maybe a little bit, the numbers will be a little bit different, but definitely there will be an overflow of cases to the employment-based green cards. With USCIS promising to do a better job this year than last year, opportunities are available for positive things happening in October.
That's one of the positive factors that goes into our analysis of where the Visa Bulletin is going.
A couple months ago, we have done a similar early projection, and we looked back at it, and we're looking now at these numbers, and we're just surprised how close they are to each other. They're a little bit different because we have minor tweaking and more data from USCIS.
Oh, yeah. We have a lot more data in terms of, what stuff we didn't talk about. We were only talking about overflow last time, well, now we can talk about preview of, what prevents the Visa Bulletin from moving forward, whose I-140s are out there in the future,
To go back to a conclusion that's a little bit more refined, but let's go over the overflow. We were debating whether to give you our projection first or the analysis first, but because you guys love the analysis so much, we decided to give you our analysis first, and then we'll give you the projection not too long after the analysis.
Yeah, so let's talk about what goes into this, and I'll run through them real quick, Sam, real quick.
No. Don't go fast. Slow down so they can catch up with us.
Okay.
Here.
So what goes into
plenty of time.
Our Visa Bulletin prediction is one, new green card availability for the next fiscal year 2023. It's how many visas will be available, and that's really a question driven by how much overflow will there be from this year. Next on the list is USCIS employment-based green card usage this year. That drives how the Visa Bulletin moves in the next fiscal year. Also on the list is, the I-140 approvals that are out there, the people with the priority dates that are coming up. It is what kind of volume of I-140s are out there that are immediately ahead, that will soon have their priority dates current. What's the density of the I-140 backlog that's coming forward? When you look at that number, you have to think, are all those I-140s good? Are some of those I-140s, rendered moot by people getting their green cards through other means, or just sort of giving up on the success in the United States? And then you sort of have to factor in, other less tangible factors, that we'll talk about down the road as well. So,
well, let me see. I understand.
Yeah.
Make sure I understand. So the first factor, new green card availability. That's the 140,000 we have, and plus whatever overflow.
Yeah.
So how much coming in?
Yes.
So that's one factor.
Yeah.
The second factor is how many. What's the number of unprocessed green cards at the end of the year with USCIS?
If they're wasting visas. Yeah, that stops the Visa Bulletin from moving forward.
or they even processed all the visas, how many boxes left that they couldn't get to.
Did they take too many cases? Yes.
Yeah, they took too many cases, and we think they may have
Certainly.
for about 1 month work.
Yeah.
Right? So the second factor. And then so when we get those two factors, they give us some kind of an idea on really how much is available.
Yeah.
But in terms of calculating the number of years movement, now we have to look at how many I-140s they're approving every year, so we can count the years or count the months, right? And that's your third factor.
Yeah.
And then 4, 5, and 6 are more of an adjustment to this number, right?
Yeah,
They are adjustments. One is duplication, how many people filed I-140, EB2, and EB3 at the same time, or they moved
family green cards,
or they moved from one employer to the other employer and they filed another I-140 in 2015. So there's duplication of I-140s, and then it's kind of a ratio of family size, because not only do you as an employee with a green card application count against the visa number, but also your spouse and your children count.
Yeah.
So we need, there's a multiplier we have to apply.
Yeah.
And then the unknowns, other factors.
The question marks, the what ifs, the maybes.
So you put all that in the blender.
Yeah.
You turn the blender, you throw some ice on it, and then you come out with something. Well, and that's what we're trying to do.
Let's get out the blender and let's start throwing these factors in.
All right, sounds good.
So the first factor, it is green card availability for next year, which is driven by unused family preference visas in the current fiscal year. Family preference visas are a certain select part of family visas, people who have to wait a bit longer. And
basically they are daughters, sons, not spouses, spouses of permanent residents, and siblings.
Yeah, of U.S. citizens. Yeah, U.S. citizens. So
not counting
immediate relatives, which are parents of U.S. citizens, spouses of U.S. citizens, and children of U.S. citizens.
Correct.
So when these family preference visas go unused in one fiscal year, they roll over to employment-based categories for the next fiscal year.
Okay. And they get applied to the most backlogged.
The highest backlog category.
The highest backlog, which is India.
EB2.
EB2 first, and it has to dispose of that before you go to EB3.
Certainly.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, sounds good.
So every year, we generally accept that there's going to be a minimum availability of 226,000 family preference visas, because that's, I won't bother getting into why, but that's generally what there's going to be.
That's the number.
That's the number.
That's the minimum number that's allowable, and that's the minimum number end up being used.
So I'm going to put up how we basically, the very simple calculations as to how we get the unused, the next year's employment-based availability. Here it comes. So step one is to, there's that 226,000 family preference visas available, less the actual amount used. That gives you your unused amount for the year.
Unused amount of family
preference
visas.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, and then those move over to the next year. So 140,000, because 140,000 every year is employment-based green card. That's your baseline availability, right? And then the unused family preference visas from the prior year, coming from down here, get put on top of that. And the sum of those two is the visa, employment-based visa availability for the next fiscal year.
So if the yellow highlighted item, if the consulate approved 226,000 family-based visas, there will be zero moving over.
Yeah.
If they approve 220,000, there's 6,000 moving.
That is how it works, sir. Yes.
And that's basically you. And then you add these two numbers, 140,000 plus the unused, and you get the first number, which is the total number of visas that are available for employment-based.
Yeah.
Okay.
So keep it on moving on through there. So how does one know the family preference visa usage before the government announces the total number? Well, thankfully, the Department of State publishes some really great data. They publish every month, they publish data about how many immigrant visas in various categories they're using, and basically you can suck the family preference data out of that. Now, it has to be noted that USCIS uses a much smaller amount of this family preference data as well, and we're going to show how get a good idea. As
But
to
we
what
were
that might
able
be.
to calculate that and reincorporate that number with
yeah,
a reasonable certainty.
A good educated guess for sure.
Yeah. Sounds good. So do you have a chart to show us these numbers?
I do have a chart to show those Department of State numbers. Here we are.
So now we are looking at, so everybody understand, these numbers are family preference numbers. These are family preference numbers, and we're adding them up because we want to subtract that total from 226,000.
Yeah.
And is that a green color?
Yes. Yes. The green color represents actual data based upon what the Department of State has published online through their website.
Did that number incorporate USCIS numbers?
It does not include USCIS numbers. We're going to talk about that on the next slide or so.
Okay. So that is actual.
Yeah.
And then you projected 3 more months.
Yeah, a simple average based upon what they've done in the rest of the the prior months of the fiscal year.
So based on your calculation, sounds like a round number of 160,000.
Yeah, more or less.
Green cards for family preference is issued
By the
out
Department
of the
of State.
226,000.
Correct.
Not counting USCIS's numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
So
I follow you.
Yeah. So then there's USCIS. So USCIS does not publish very specific data about the green cards that they approve. They basically glom them all together in a category called family-based green cards where they approve adjustments of status in the United States. However, if you dig deep in the Department of State data, every fiscal year they publish, here's all the green cards we used in family preference categories, and here is, all the ones that just the Department of State used. You do a little bit of subtraction, you can get what USCIS used in terms of family preference visas for a year.
Sounds good.
So going back, 2021, you used 21,000, 2020, 13, 2020, 19, 2018, 13, 2017, 13,000.
Yeah, so these, what you just said, are number of visas that the USCIS has approved that you need to add to this number. So you have averaged between 2017 to 2021, how many USCIS approves in the family preference category, which gave you a 15,800 per year.
Yeah.
So you added that number to the 160,000 you had.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And that gave you?
I think we're about to get our total predicted usage for the year.
So that gave you 175,000.
Yeah, and put it up on the screen here. So yeah. So 15,800 from USCIS plus 159 and some change from Department of State equals about 175,000. 226,000 less that 175,000 gives you an overflow of about 50,000.
So 175,000 in family-based green card used by both USCIS and the Department of State. That's our projection based on data and projecting and massaging a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's reasonably accurate.
Yeah.
And because 226,000 is what's for them, and we believe 175,000 will be used by the end of the year, we believe that there will be 50,000 unused green cards that will flow into the employment-based green card, which will directly go to the India EB2.
We're the highest category with the biggest backlog.
Okay, so that's above and beyond the 140,000 employment-based green card that's going to be distributed among all the countries and all the different categories. Specifically for employment-based second preference, India is going to receive a shot in the muscle worth 50,000 green cards.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, critical number. Now, the next thing is we need to look at that 50,000 number. How many years worth of green card is that? Right?
Yeah. What does that mean? Yeah.
What does it mean in terms of years in green card for India? And then we need to do some modifiers.
Well, there's one step before that, though. It's how good is USCIS going to do on visa usage this year?
Okay.
Forgot about that.
So pause that 50,541 number in your head, pause it and set it aside. We are shifting our attention to look at what's in the pipeline with USCIS.
Yeah. So if it's a much simpler explanation than the visa usage. It's pretty simple. If everybody probably knows at this point that USCIS, or the Department of State, if they don't use an employment-based green card during the fiscal year, it burns off at the end of the year. It is not used. It's lost, right?
So the question that we have to answer is on October 1st,
Yeah.
how many boxes of green cards they haven't touched,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That's really the question.
Yeah. Those are wasted green cards.
Because they're going to have to suck number from that 50,000 into these.
Yeah. Any green card that they don't issue this year is one less tick on the visa bulletin moving forward next year.
One green card
Yeah,
lost
one
next
less.
year.
Yeah, one, exactly.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that.
And let's refresh what USCIS, Department of State, have been saying on this. And I'll just
and apologies for the small font if you're watching this on your small device, but we will read it to you.
Well, I'm going to put it up on the screen, and I have a good summary on there. Nice highlighted text summary. It looks good, but I'll tell you what everybody's saying. So, USCIS, as of July 18th, said they are quote unquote well positioned to use all the employment-based immigrant visas for fiscal year 2022. So that's a big game. We're going to use them all, said USCIS. And then on the visa bulletin that came out for September, which came out I think it was a little bit over a week ago. Department of State says, hey, there's a reasonable chance, we believe that all of these visas will be used sometime during the month of September. And they say our contingency plan is if those visas are used, we're going to someday mark the visa bulletin for September unavailable, meaning no more cases, please. We're out of visas. So
hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, hasn't happened yet, but it is. So
is it possible?
Yes, I think it is. I mean, they believe it, and one of the things I don't have the data for it right here, but in fiscal Q4 of fiscal year 2020, the prior fiscal year 2021, USCIS approved 84,000 and some change employment-based green cards, the final quarter in their last push. That year, as far as we can tell, they had less time into these cases, and they were less organized and less. In less of a push than they are right now. And they got 84,000 out the door. I don't think it's so crazy that they get another, 20,000 on top of that out the door in this fiscal year. If they're more organized, they've been planning for it, I think. And
so are you projecting that they will use 100%?
I believe it's going to be pretty darn close. I think that
they're not going to make it close. If they get within 5,000, they're approving the 5,000.
Yeah.
There's no way they're going to say we got close but short, because it will always be criticized.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say I'm going to project they will use the 285,000.
Yeah, I can't say every last one, but I believe honestly their intent and and I believe they can do it. The amount that they
I
ignore
think
will be every last one.
Every last one, and the visa bulletin will go unavailable.
Well, that's a good point, because I'm sure they'd love to be able to do that, because all the people who watch them, Congress, all the watchers will say, good job, USCIS.
So that's my piece on that. But you're building that into your calculation.
Yeah.
You're assuming it's going to be
I'm assuming that. Yeah.
Now let's assume they're all used up.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean there's not more adjustments in their warehouse to use that will suck some of these 50,000.
Yes, and we have to talk about that. So way back in October 2020, the visa bulletin for EB3 moved all the way forward to January 1st, 2015, right? And as a result, and that people with priority dates in December 2014 got to file their green cards by doing downgrades, and their cases are still pending out there. However, the final action dates on the visa bulletin haven't quite made it back there yet. That means anybody who has a priority date in December of 2014, those cases, if they file their cases, they're still in the possession of USCIS, meaning those people still need green cards as well, despite the fact that they haven't, their cases have been pending for, a couple years. So those people, chomp, 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 eating up some of the availability for next fiscal year. They're
1 month worth of EB2.
Yeah, 1 month worth of EB2, exactly.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so we identified that there will be 1 month of EB2 in their possession by the end of the fiscal year. That's going to have to factor into the projection.
Yeah.
What's the next step?
Well, it's a big one, and it's something I spent a lot of time thinking about. How much the visa bulletin can move is contingent upon how many I-140s are out there ahead of the visa bulletin. So the visa bulletin, in terms of dates for filing, only made it to January 1st, 2015. That's the furthest it's made it was for EB3 technically, but everybody knows everybody downgraded from EB3 to EB2.
Correct.
Right? And most of those people, went for green cards that way.
Sure.
So basically, we know all the visa availability is going into EB2. So the question is, hey, how many I-140s did USCIS approve? And India's got to be the focus because they're the most backlog category.
Well, not only the most backlog, all the 50,000 goes to them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they're the backlog category, and that's where the overflow goes. So thereby, they're the most important category here. So I'm going to put this on the screen, and USCIS, they're so nice to publish yearly fiscal year I-140 data. So I'm going to put it up here for everybody. Here it is.
So the relevant number for us is in year 2015. 31,000.
Yeah, 31,698. That's approved I-140s for USCIS in fiscal year 2015.
India.
Yeah, India. EB2 India.
Okay, so 31,000. Now, calculations.
Yeah. So, but that's not 32,000 visas they need to issue.
Sure.
So let's talk about what that number really means.
Right.
So, first of all, there's something called I'm calling it duplication and attrition. So duplication, we were talking about this. There's lots of other ways people could, basically, their I-140s in the EB2 category could be rendered moot. How might that happen? Say, for example, you upgraded to EB1. Say, a husband and a wife have 2015 priority dates in the EB2 category. Well, if one of you gets a green card, one of your I-140s renders the other one moot. You both don't need I-140 approvals to get your green card.
Sure.
Let me see here. People give up. The U.S. immigration process is...
Well, people file more than one I-140.
Yeah, people filing more than one I-140. Oh, a common scenario for people out there, I'm sure. Hey, I moved to a new employer. I want to get a green card through you instead of the last one. And that I-140 is out there. And those people might already have green cards already, because some of these, it doesn't tell you what the priority date of these people who got their I-140 approved in 2015. Some of these people probably have their green cards already.
So what's your percentage for that attrition, Brian?
Well, it's just a best guesstimate, it's a harder number to pin down. So my number is, I'm going to say about 92% of those
we'll go forward.
Will go forward.
So it's 8% off.
Yeah, 8%
okay,
off.
I'll take that.
Yeah. And now there is a question of family members. For every person who is seeking an I-140, has a priority date in 2015, they may have some family members. Now, I've been doing this job a long time, and my guess is based upon what I've seen in the past. On average, EB2, India, average family size, 2.5 people. Husband and wife, a kid who's not born in the United States.
Every other case, there's a kid.
Yeah, every other case there's a kid.
Every 3 cases, there are 1.5 kids.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I have tested this number before in ways I won't bore people with, but I have found it to be pretty darn accurate.
Good.
Yeah.
So you have a 2.5%. You have an 8% attrition, 2.5 multiplier.
Yeah. And one thing, I have to mention is my 2015 modifier. So this number, which I'm going to put back on the screen here, is I-140s approved in fiscal year 2015. Fiscal year 2015 begins October 2014, right? And that means some of those 2015 fiscal year I-140s have already had their visas allocated.
So should that be an increase or not a reduction? If that's the case,
it is a reduction. So basically, I say basically, 2 months worth of I just basically divided,
So, but there is 1 month worth of green cards that are going to go into it. So that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have now sort of a modified version of this chart showing all this data, and let's bring it up here real quick. Put it back to us. And here it is. So again, all the things we were just talking about. So there's the actual USCIS number of EB2 India I-140s approved by USCIS fiscal year 2015, give us 92% of those to account for attrition, duplication, just basically people who aren't going to be pursuing these I-140s. Multiply that number by 2.5, you're going to get, by the size of a family. And then, subtract those because some people for 2015 priority
There's cases in the pipeline.
Yeah.
There's cases in the pipeline now that's going to eat up.
Yeah.
So now, so everybody understands, these are guesstimate, guys.
Yeah.
These are not scientific. So anybody can do this calculation and come out with 70,000.
Oh, yeah.
Or somebody else can come out with 50,000. But I'll be surprised if somebody come out with 40,000 or somebody come out with 100,000.
Yeah, I mean,
so these.
I've played with these numbers. I mean, that's anybody can tell that's a screenshot from an Excel spreadsheet, and that's Excel spreadsheet. Those numbers I modified them several times just to
get the comfort level
to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's your comfort. So 61,000 green cards needed to move 1 year.
Yeah, to finish out fiscal year 2015
for India. So that's what that number is.
To get the time to get the fiscal year, which ends on September 30th. That's our guesstimate as to what is out there for fiscal year 2015.
Now we go back to the number you had, which is 50,000.
Yeah, 50,000 overflow.
A little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit more.
A few hundred.
Yeah.
So 50,000 overflow, but 61,000 needed to move 1 year in EB2.
Yeah, most of the fiscal, yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd say, and then you have the 140,000.
Yeah.
That's going to come in and help out a little bit.
Yeah. So that 50,000 overflow will get poured into this number and take most of it. And then there's a question, Sam, of what about the other 140,000, Brian? You're not even talking about. What kind of movement can we get out of that?
Right. In summary.
Yeah. In summary. So we basically went through and sort of looked at the visa bulletin. The data is not super consistent as to what the Department of State does at the beginning of every fiscal year, but the bottom line is odds are you're going to get a sort of a generous push forward. It's let's see what kind of cases we're going to get immediately when the fiscal year begins.
It's a forward movement every October.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Without this 10 months, 11 months push.
Yeah.
And that's going to give you another 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, and I think we started talking about months, Sam. We have started talking about numbers. So what's our prediction then, Sam?
All right. So our prediction is minimum of 1 year movement EB2.
Yeah, and I'll take more. I wouldn't be surprised if we got more, because we'll start talking about our factors. What's different this year than versus this time we were making predictions last year.
You probably cannot slice it closer. And people were talking about, that some of the data that we had yesterday had some numbers off. I think it was the May date. We've parsed one category off. I think we put that back in there.
Yeah.
So the May date reflects 12,000 or so. So that got addressed. Yeah. And then the prediction from last time was 11,000 State Department per month. Now we moved it up 2 more thousand.
Yeah, 13,000. Yeah.
So we last time we were predicting 55,000 green cards available. Yeah. We ended up with all this mumbo jumbo. We're down to 50,000.
Yeah.
The difference is what, within 10%
Yeah.
plus or minus.
Yeah.
So the numbers haven't changed. You spend more time.
Oh yeah. So all that you're right. That first half of the how much are we going to have available hasn't changed that much. But thinking about what's in the way? What does it translate in number of years? Yeah. What I-140s are out there that are slow down the movement of the visa bulletin? If only one person from India filed a green card, an EB2 green card in 2015, you skip the whole year easily.
1 year movement in the EB2 India in the October visa bulletin. What about EB3?
EB3, humble movement. As USCIS has explained, in this fiscal year, the overflow must go into, the big overflow from the family preference categories must go into the highest categories first. So not only do you have to take care of the India backlog to make it even with China, and then you have to take that China EB2 backlog up as well.
Yes. And so humble movement in the EB3, 1 year movement in the EB2 minimum, and a comment on future years, those with the 2016.
Yeah.
And that's probably that chart that you have right there that you're
put
about
it up.
to
So
put it up.
People obviously want to see the visa bulletin move, and as really the bulk of this presentation has been, how far the visa bulletin can move is contingent upon how many I-140s are out there. And the thing that's kind of a bummer for people who are waiting is that
these numbers increase.
Yeah, I mean, and here it is on this chart. Here's the 2012 EB2 I-140s approved, 22,000, 2013, 21,000, 2014, 25,000. 2015, the number we've really been discussing, 31,000. And here's where it gets crazy. 2016, 47,000 approvals. 2017, 41,000 approvals. That makes it harder for the visa bulletin to move because the same number of visas, as hopefully for the people waiting for family preference visas.
So things are going to get slower in the future.
Yeah, which
is very disappointing unless there's legislation to save the day, which hasn't happened. And obviously things don't let off here in 2019, 43,000.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I mean, there may be all the attrition factors we talked about may apply to some of these. Duplicate I-140s. People who actually ended up getting another green card in another category. It's
a challenge going forward. So we definitely need legislation to resolve that going forward because there's not going to be the overflow. So these backlog is going to start getting stuck at not move as much next year and the year after for those who wants us to predict 2016 numbers, etc. It's going to be quite difficult. Yeah. So you heard it from us confirming 1 year movement, October visa bulletin for India, and a modest movement in the EB3. And when we come back, we're going to take your questions. All right, great discussions, a lot of questions here, more questions there. We're going to do the best we can, and if we cannot answer your question today, we apologize. Come back, and we will do our best to answer your questions tomorrow. So, first question we have today, spillover from family-based to employment-based is 50,000. Somebody here has done his homework. Mm-hmm. What is the realistic move forward in EB2 India if USCIS enters fiscal 23 with the lowest number of pending I-45s? Will India get more than 7% of 140,000?
Well, the overflow, again, as USCIS explained, made it very clear to everybody this year, it goes into the highest, most backlogged category, being right. EB2 India.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. What about the 7% over of 140? That is not a limiter.
That not for the overflow. Yeah.
Vamshi, my perm was filed in January 10th, 2022. Did not get any update yet. January. Okay.
That doesn't surprise me.
May I know how much time it's taking for perm approval these days?
6 to 7 months, and if you actually look at the Department of Labor flag portal website, they basically tell you what months they're on. And it's generally first in, first out, but I know they have some stragglers from September they haven't even gotten into, let alone November, December, January.
Steve Smith, priority date September 2014, 485 transfer to NBC last week, medical filed in October 2020. Got laid off last week. No. If no other RFE interview, can my green card be approved? Could it be revoked in the future? All right.
How long was that pending for, Sam? I'm used to having it on the screen in front of me.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Right here. I don't know what.
So.
October 2020. So September 2014 priority date.
Yeah, it sounds like his I-45 has been pending for a while. It sounds like he needs to find a new employer who can give him a
are you asking whether he can transfer? Well, yes, obviously. EB3 45 is denied. So today my EB3 I-45 is this is a different case. Yeah. Could it be revoked in the future? So most likely, the I-45 has been pending for 180 days.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me based upon the facts. My best guess.
And most likely, the I-140 has been pending over 180 days, so there's no issues in finding a new employer or going into self-employment immediately.
That's something, yeah, very possible.
So there's no need for you to sit like a deer in the headlight waiting for mercy to come down. take charge of your destiny and start your own company. Take a job. Go on DICE, apply, become a contractor, take it, and pay yourself a salary. Contact an attorney for consultation, how you can set it up so you can make the best case forward that you have entered into self-employment. And that will substantially reduce the risk of denial or revocation.
Yeah.
I'll give you that one here to read.
Sure.
Next one.
So from Jagan, refiled in April 2022 and case went to the NBC, downgraded EB3, moved to NBC in May 2022. Today, my EB3 I-45 is denied. What could be the reason? Should I be worried? Well, that's a great question. You know, obviously, anytime I hear about a denial, I can't help but think, you know, so if you have two I-45s pending, my optimistic version is they're closing one of them because they're approving the other one.
Well, first of all, a denial doesn't happen without an RFE.
They will, I mean, the USCIS online tracking notices information is scary, but you know, if you have two I-45s pending and they approve one of them, they have to close one out.
Oh, that's the only scenario in which they do that.
Yeah.
That's the only scenario.
Yeah. So that's what I'm hopeful for in this scenario.
Yeah, and you haven't received anything yet.
Yeah.
So most likely you maybe have a green card, you're a permanent resident. It's the only time they'll deny it because obviously they cannot approve a second adjustment. Yeah. But obviously you need to wait until you see the notice in the mail.
You don't, you're in speculation territory until you do. That's my optimistic speculation.
Take Shiva number, that one.
Yeah, sure. So from Shiva, hi, my priority date is October 2015. Can I file I-45 through my previous employer, who I worked for 8 years, who is another LLC of my current company? Perm process started joined last June. So basically, it sounds like there's another company out there, and maybe it's affiliated with your current employer, and the question is, can you file I-45 through that prior employer? And the question is that employer willing to support that? I mean, if you have a prior I-140 through another company, there's nothing that stops you from going back to that company if they're willing to support your I-45, right? But that's up to them. You have part of filing an I-45 based upon an approved I-140 is including a form called Supplement J. Supplement J must describe the role on your I-140, and most importantly, it must be signed off by your employer, the person who filed that I-140. And that's, you know, it's possible.
I think the question here for him, he's saying, can my other company, the other company that I am no longer employed with, file the I-45 simply because they're affiliated with this company that I'm working for now, and that would be considered a good faith filing and will not be questioned. That will require digging deep into these two companies and see how they are related. But generally speaking, if it's a different tax ID number, you're going to have to take employment in this company that filed your I-485 for a reasonable period of time. Just the fact that it's an LLC affiliated with your current employer is not enough for them to file an I-485 and you not joining that company whatsoever.
The I-45.
So that's the hint I'm getting here is that, you know, they're related. If they file the 485, I'll continue working for this company.
You have to be joining the company filing through the company who actually wants to offer you permanent employment.
An attorney has to look at this to give you a good answer. Don't assume. The fact that they're affiliated or they're good friends or related does not necessarily will satisfy the requirement. VaxMe2, if I-45 status updated, green card to be produced. That requires a button for that one. Green card to be produced. Laughing. No, it's clapping.
Clapping.
Yes.
Yay!
So getting a physical card in a week, but if status directly updated, approved, but waiting for card since 2 weeks, any thoughts? Card to be produced, approved, but waiting for card.
I mean, so they're usually pretty good about updating those things, and beyond waiting for card to be produced, they will basically put out a little update there saying, "Hey, we shipped your card. Here's the USPS tracking. Please track it, and if you don't get it, let us know." So it hasn't been updated. I presume the card has not yet been produced. Obviously, that sticks around too long.
Producing a card is a ministerial act.
Yeah.
You are a permanent resident. Are you a permanent resident before the card is issued? I think when you receive the I-45 approval, I think you're a permanent resident.
I would argue so, but you just don't have evidence of it until you have.
Yes.
Well, yeah, you have.
Abhishek Sain PD. Priority date March 2015.
Okay.
When can I expect priority date for EB2 India?
Well, we
March
discussed
2015, October.
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance of that.
You are in the extremely likely to be current in October,
Yeah.
my friend. Vlaxme 2, my daughter derivative I-45 pending at field office with priority date May 2010. She is on F1 attending medical school. Recently she traveled on AP. Does she need to inform DSO about parole status? No, she does not. I got an affidavit created in 2021, birth affidavit, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Can I use this old affidavit in the future, or does affidavit needs to be recently signed, created whenever submitting 485? Old affidavit is good if it's done properly.
Yeah.
The older the better, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the oldest evidence of a birth is better.
All right, let's go take questions.
Yes, let's see what we have up here. We can put on the screen for everybody to see. So, Dr. J. Garaya, do you think USCIS considers duplicate I-45s by people in calculating the priority date movement? Also, when they decide about visa bulletin date movement, do they consider duplicate I-140 filings? So,
well, I'm going to give them a short answer.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
I would agree.
No, they don't. And they're just not that sophisticated.
My humble belief is they move the visa bulletin and see what they get.
They guess it. They put these numbers that they do something probably like what we've done.
Not unlike what we do. What we do here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else we got? So, are you seeing I-45 getting transferred from TSC to NBC for pending EB3 I-140? My EB2 I-140 is approved and current in June and filed interfile. So I think the fundamental question is, if I have a pending EB3 downgrade, does that stop them from approving?
I don't watch those prior cases in that precision. Personally.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of people who are worried about that, and USCIS says that having a pending I-140 should, in another category, should not stop you from approving your case. And doing an interfiling, which is where the scenario this person has. Yeah.
Yes. VJ.
So priority date April 2013. I interfiled on 3/28, and then refiled later on 6/30. Both in NBC as of 7/19. Will both cases be handed independently? Will the refile case delay the interfiled one? Expect green card by September end?
Well, yes, she should expect the green card by September end.
That's what they're saying.
And it should not delay if they know what they're doing.
Yeah. If they're being, if they're doing their best and trying to achieve their goal of, getting all those green cards issued, certainly, yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's a.
Are you seeing I-45 getting transferred TCS?
Yeah,
for pending?
that's the same question, I believe. Yeah.
What is the best and worst case prediction for EB3 in October 2022? Best 3 months.
Yeah.
Worst 3 months.
Yeah. I don't expect.
Yeah.
EB3 is also crazy right now because I don't know how USCIS can possibly, or rather Department of State can keep an eye on it, because basically everybody jumped into EB3 and they're slowly being plucked out of EB3 by interfiling or refiling, getting back to EB2. It's an absolute mess. But one of the
They made the mess. They created the mess.
Oh yes, and that's October 2020 Visa Bulletin. They threw the EB3 dates forward when anything that we know says they should have moved EB2 dates.
I have no idea why they did that.
Yeah.
No logic behind it.
Yeah.
All right. EB2 national interest waiver was filed April, and I did my biometrics July 6th. Do you think the I-140 can be approved before the end of fiscal year 2022? What's your priority date?
National interest waiver filed in April, and I did my biometrics July 6th. I'm going to presume it's got to be an old one.
Well, we don't have the priority date. I mean, if the priority date is within the current period, It's current now.
If it's final action current now, that final action date current means they believe they have a visa available for you now.
And if it is, I
Yeah.
don't see a problem. When we can expect May 2016 to be current for India EB2, and that's where it gets really tough.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't.
So
my mind would,
2016, India received 47,000 I-140 approvals.
yeah, that's good. Sam's looking at this chart we still have up here on our end. It becomes harder to move the visa bulletin through 2016 priority dates because there is 15,000 more I-140s approved in 2016.
And I expect no overflow next year.
Yeah, well, at the very least less.
So the movement looks very grim going forward, folks, unless there's new legislation.
Yeah.
January 7, 2015, EB2. Thoughts on final action date and filing date? What do you think?
I don't think JCP Ready has to worry about dates for filing because all it requires to get your date current is a month and a week of final action.
You'll
date
be
current.
in the October visa bulletin, my friend.
Yeah. I agree.
Medicals and were submitted and also priority date, and that's TA.
TA. So if your priority date is final action current and you're in the EB2 category, final action priority date current means there's a visa available, and the only thing that'll stop them from doing it is if they don't have the time.
Yep, I have filed my perm on January 10, 2022, and still no update. Any update, any idea? I think that we've gotten that question before.
But 6 to 7 months is really the processing time for perm right now, and it keeps on creeping up, unfortunately.
Yep, fine.
So recently entered using AP, and my I-94 has my first name misspelled. How do I correct it? Does it affect my pending I-45, which was transferred to a field office? Thanks. So
correcting it, you need to contact ICE, customs office. So you can look them up online. There's a list of customs office that you can contact regarding this correction. They will probably allow you to come in, see you, and make the correction.
Yeah.
Should not affect your I-485.
Yeah.
For family immigration, sponsoring parent-child, should the parent-child go through green card and naturalize? How long should they stay on green card? So for family immigration, sponsoring parent-child, so the parent is one thing, child is another.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure which one you're talking about. Let's talk about parent. If you're sponsoring a parent, you're a U.S. citizen, you can go through the green card, then naturalize, yes. Now, if you're sponsoring a child for a green card and the child enters the United States in the custody of a U.S. citizen parent
you're using a fancy attorney term, child. Child in immigration, it means...
under 21, unmarried.
Yeah, unmarried child under 21.
Yeah. So if that person, if you are sponsoring a son or a daughter who's under 21 and unmarried, which is a child, as defined by immigration law, and that person is in your custody under the Citizenship Act, the Child Citizenship Act, that child is a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
So consult with an attorney on that. There's no naturalization required for that scenario. There's all kind of interesting twists on this, but consult with an attorney with experience. We've handled a pretty convoluted case recently on that successfully.
Yeah.
All right, so
That's the same one.
all right, next one. May 2015 getting current October 2022.
Yeah.
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 Heck yeah.
Yeah, that's something we're thinking about. Yeah.
Yep. When someone moves to a new employer and retain the priority date from the first I-140, would it still be counted as a duplicate for your calculation towards the number of I-140s? So for our calculation, we made an adjustment for that, right?
Yeah. We don't, USCIS, this data is not specific. They don't tell you anything about these I-140s that are in fiscal year 2015. So I presume every time they get an I-140, if one company filed, an EB2, two EB2s based upon the same, labor certification, just for fun, I presume it would be, 2 ticks on that list. But
I don't think they're that sophisticated to count it close, that accurate.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi, how significant is applying 485 Supplement J? The reason for this question is I moved from Company A to Company B after 180 days for filing. Well, it's critical for your approval.
Yeah.
Without Supplement J, you are obligated legally to file Supplement J.
To notify USCIS that you have a new intended permanent employer in the United States.
Yes. Huge. So you need to do it. Absolutely. You will not be approved.
We did a presentation on it, I believe, a couple of months back. I mean, the thing you have to really consider is whether it's a same or similar occupation, which is the really...
But the question here, he's skipping it altogether.
Yeah?
He's just not filing Supplement J. He said, how significant filing Supplement J?
It's okay. That's how you're interpreting. I presumed he was asking, how hard is it to file Supplement J? Yeah? It is very significant.
Back to the question.
How significant is applying for Supplement? You're right. You're right. I think I could see it your way. Yeah, okay. It is significant for sure.
Yep. All right, but now my application is moved to NBC. Wondering if applying Supplement J from Company B, whether it delay me getting green card, or is it better not to apply Supplement J at the point? My friend, you cannot play with Supplement J filing as a strategy.
Yeah.
You are legally obligated to file Supplement J when you change your employer.
When you have a new company that says they're my permanent employer.
Whether it delays or not delays, you must do your part so you do not get picked on when they're looking at your case and they think that you are a person who's gaming the system or you're a person who's not respecting the rules. You are obligated to file Supplement J. This is part of the continuing offer of employment in the U.S. to receive a green card.
Yeah.
Do not play with it.
They might, think of it. Think of that prior employer. That prior employer might have withdrawn your I-140. So, don't act like USCIS won't know. Yeah. Because if that prior employer withdraws your I-140, your I-140 is still left approved, but they withdraw the offer of employment, and USCIS, maybe they get a little ping saying, we need a Supplement J for this guy.
Or you get interviewed later on and they find that you filed Supplement J 9 months after you moved. They may be annoyed.
Yeah.
By your disrespect to the rule. So it's very important. Have you seen approvals for EB2 refile cases at NBC where final action date is current but downgraded EB3, I-140 out of I-485 are pending on SRC? Do I need to do premium processing for EB3, I-140 for both cases to be considered first?
I don't
consolidated first.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be consolidated, although there's a lot of talk about that. It's out of ignorance, more so out of anything.
Yeah. Well, healthy paranoia. Everybody wants their green card faster. I will entertain that paranoia for a brief moment, Sam. It's if an officer has two cases, one that's clean, I-140 is all approved, and the other one, there's a complication. One can't help but wonder. What USCIS says is that a pending EB3 downgrade should not. It's in their handbook. It says that you're allowed to do interfiling, for example, with a pending case. There you go.
Absolutely. With all the spillover going to EB2, does it mean chances of EB3 are bleak? Is there a possibility that they move the date of EB3 just the way they moved in 2020 October? Now remember, in October 2020, they moved the filing date, not the final action date. Yeah. Then realized that there was a big screw up and asked everybody to interfile.
Yeah.
It is bleak because by rule, the overflow must go to the highest category for first, which is EB1, and which is fully current right now across the board.
That's why it goes to.
Then it drops
EB2.
down to EB2, to the most backlogged country, and then once the EB2 is satisfied or current, then it moves to EB3. That means it will never move to EB3, at least the overflow, because
we are looking at this again. We still have it up on our screen here.
We have 26,000 backlog pending in 34,000. I'm sorry, pending in 2015.
I'll put it up for a second. Yeah. It's 2016, 47,000 EB2 approvals. You know, plus their family members. 2017,
Double that.
41,000. 2018, 39,000. 43, 2019. It all adds up.
So that's 400,000 pending EB2s in 2015, 16, 17, 18. By law, these have to be satisfied to move down to EB3.
Yeah, well, what's an EB3 person to do? Well, you're allowed to go back to school, you know, if you want to get that master's degree that would allow you to get into the EB2 category. And there's always national interest waiver. We did a presentation on that. Like
well, so if you are an EB3 with a 4-year bachelor's degrees, maybe you are employed for many, many years and have high salary. There are ways in which you can qualify for exceptional ability and become an EB2, even if you have a 4-year bachelor's degree. So look into that if you have a long years of experience. So consult with an attorney how you can move to an EB2 and get that priority date moved to EB2 for you based on your accomplishments.
Yeah.
Received green card, I-45 approval notice has incorrect priority date. 7/12 instead of 7/18. Should I just ignore it or raise the request to get it corrected? If I ignore it, will it cause an issue in the future? That's an excellent question.
So it won't, that priority date, whether it's 7/12 or 7/18, is if both those priority dates are current, I'm not worried about, you know, the validity of your green card, whether they oops accidentally issued one in the wrong category, right, or prior than they should have. That's something that crosses my mind whenever I see a typo like that, right? You can put in a service request.
I would put a service request.
Me too. I think it is peace of mind. You bring it up here because you have a question, and ultimately
you don't want that to be living in your head for the rest of your life. I have I have dealt with letters being sent from USCIS to people saying, "We're sorry, we made a mistake. We issued your green card incorrectly. We are going to take your green card from you," and then you work with them in trying to reestablish the
get the I-45 case back into processing mode,
pending
get
mode.
your EAD and AP back in place because you don't have those anymore.
Yeah, and then it's a big disruption because you bought a house, you've made commitments.
You've been going around saying you're a permanent resident to people, and they tell you you're not.
Yeah, your employer is shocked. Maybe you got hired to a job that requires permanent residence only. All kind of complications.
Yeah.
So I would contact them.
Yeah, it's rare, but I mean, we've seen it happen.
Absolutely.
I worry about that, Sam. If they're approving so many green cards right now in a frenzy, are we going to be spending our the first quarter of fiscal year 2023 on the phone with USCIS saying?
It will take more than that. That's the problem. I've had people who were contacted a year and a half later.
Yeah.
And saying we made a mistake.
That's
sorry.
something which was worried me for a while. It's basically if they're in such a frenzy right now, they're moving fast.
Oh, it's very possible.
Yeah.
My EB1C I-140 approved, but approval notice indicated the category as a national interest waiver. This is my lawyer raised the issue. Service request. Green card approved today. What's the likelihood of incorrect category in green card? Similar to the other person, it's lucky how those two issues came back to back.
Again.
So that tells me there's a big problem out there. So yeah, you need to get that corrected. Make sure that the green card is issued properly.
Yeah.
But again, the good news is you are in the EB1. And
You're
the green card is in the EB2, so chances are that it has no impact, but you got to correct it.
Yeah, it's just you don't want that gray cloud hanging over your head.
Yes. My priority date is 2014. We'll file 485 next week. Will I get green card? If yes, how many months or any retrogression?
Okay, well, you get a green card. Pretty good chance of that sooner or later. It's really a question of how long will it take to process.
Yep.
Realistically, I think this fiscal year is so close to the end that they may have trouble approving that case before the end of this fiscal year. It's possible. We have heard of some very, 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 very quick I-45 approvals. So you wouldn't blow my mind if you told me that you got that green card during the fiscal year. But next year is a more likely possibility.
Well, I got a friend here.
Yeah. All right. Well, all 50K spillover won't go to EB2 India. I don't think spillover will happen this way.
Okay, you're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah.
But the law says the spillover goes to the most backlogged.
Yeah, if you read the USCIS FAQs they've been issuing this year, they explain, that rollover goes into EB2, and that's why the EB2 final action dates keep on going ahead, while you haven't seen movement in EB3 at all.
Does 34,000 for 2015 mean it applies for all people whose priority date is in 2015, since people with 2015 priority date usually gets approved in 2016?
So I think this person is referring to that nice chart we had up there. And that 34,000 is 34,000 total petitions, only approving 31,000 of them. So this is only an India chart. USCIS does publish other charts, but from other countries. But this is only an India chart. I think if somebody's thinking, what they're saying is, hey, what about people who aren't in India? As they got their green cards in 2016.
So his point is correct in that potentially some of the I-140s approved in 2015 are for labor certifications were filed in 2014, but they were approved in 2015, and so forth and so on. 100% correct.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah, 100% correct, but we have no way of parsing it any other way. So we just picked up the approval in 2015, assuming what we have.
As we said, those numbers are our best guess,
Yeah.
but you can't take them as gospel. But basically, you have data on I-140s. Those I-140s are they're out there. And
so I mean, it's likely that I would take 2016, like 25% of 2016 approval.
Yeah, processing
20,
time.
Some kind of adjustment upward.
One thing you got to think of is
that could be one more adjustment factor you can throw in. Why not?
One thing you got to think of is I-140s, perms are processing a lot faster back then as well. And
But some of them approved in January of 2015 clearly were 2014 priority date, and some of them approved in 2016 January.
Gonna have 20.
Yeah. So you can just say, you know what? I'm going to take 75% of 2015 and 25% of 2016 as a more accurate number. That adjustment can sway the number 3,000 or 4,000, 2,000 green cards.
Well, as I said in the beginning, I obviously, it's sort of a fun task, but yeah.
Krishna Prasad, you are on the Shihab committee to calculate the next visa bulletin projection.
I think our projections are going to get really accurate, sometime in middle of September.
So all those guys with amazing input are welcome to join in on the next year calculations. We need all the help we can get.
Yeah.
It's 7:02. I'm going to take one last one, and I'm sorry for those I could not answer their questions, and we will definitely take it on next week. Brian, take that one.
Does USCIS send email copy of RFE in case it was not received in mail? So how does USCIS send RFEs? If you have a My USCIS account, you'll sometimes get them in there. They'll send it to your attorney as well as you, and via email, unlikely but not impossible. I have gotten a more or less RFE sort of emails from USCIS officers more frequently in the last couple of months as they scramble to. They could call you and call you about something as well. It's something that's possible.
Elsa has a question. Why don't you give it a shot, Brian?
I like this question, Sam.
She's very cute in the way she asked the question because she knows how to get your attention.
Yeah, put this look in my face, right?
Yeah.
I love the way you guys analyze and explain employment-based green cards. Any idea when my brother F2B, documentally qualified in February 22's category, become current? Cameroon. So F2B February 2022. I presume that's referring to the priority date there. Mm-hmm. Oh boy.
It is going to be a difficult guess for me.
Yeah.
Because an embassy guess on a local, you have to know a lot more. I don't think there's data on an embassy by embassy that's available, unfortunately, to project that. And I hate to
Yeah.
disappoint.
It sounds like some. Maybe I'm misinterpreting the question. It sounds like somebody's priority date is current or close to current, and they're submitted documents to the NVC, and
So F2B is American sons and daughters.
Yeah.
Okay, of a permanent resident.
Yeah.
And right now, priority date is September 22nd, 2015.
This is a brother, though. Anyone with my brother, F2B.
Well, I'm married. F2B is married sons and daughters of permanent residents.
I realize. Just because it's her brother doesn't mean she's the one who filed the petition.
Got it.
Yeah.
So September 22, 2015 is the priority date right now. So what's her priority date?
Well, it says. I'm not quite sure this is a priority date kind of question, Sam. I see DQ'd. I think they mean documentarily qualified at the National Visa Center. I think it's a question of when is he going to get an appointment. I was documentarily qualified in February 2022.
So you're assuming that their priority date is current and they're ready to go.
That's one interpretation of the question.
Yeah.
And
well, as we know the question, we're really not able to give you an answer unless we go inside the Cameroon consulate and go to that desk of that immigration officer and see where your file is in the stack.
It really matters.
It's very
the
specific.
workload at the consulate, and it varies all around the world. And somebody asked me, based upon consulate X, I told somebody, recently I saw one that took about a year, and recently I saw one that took about 4 months since documentarily qualified.
It's very difficult.
There's as many consulates as there are. There's answers, unfortunately.
Yes. With that, thank you guys for listening to us. Thanks, Brian, for putting in the numbers. You've done a great work.
Could you tell I was excited about them, Sam?
You are excited, and it is an exciting topic. I hope we've given you guys some idea about what to expect, and I hope that we're wrong and the Visa Bulletin moves 5 years forward, which would be wonderful.
Yeah.
You guys have a good weekend. Well, the rest of the week.
Yeah.